Is Prince Harry going to finally meet the King? Well, that's the big question. It's been a pretty bruising week for Harry. First of all, he was stopped from bringing his wife and children to London over security issues. Then he was stopped from staying at Buckingham Palace for the night. And he suffered a devastating loss in his latest court battle with the British media.
Harry, how painful was it to lose against the Daily Mail?
If Harry planned this trip around the Invictus Games and his charity work, well, hardly anyone is talking about that now. However, the King has instructed aides to find a potential time in his diary this week to meet with Harry and potentially Meghan and their two children, Archie and Lilibet. The King still wants to see his grandchildren and have a relationship with them. The good news for Harry is that Charles has instructed senior aides to engage with him to try and secure time in his busy diary to make a meeting happen between him, Harry and Meghan. Royal sources have revealed that the King is hopeful of arranging a meeting, and he wouldn't want to pass up the opportunity of seeing Harry's children, Archie and Lilibet. The King has only met Archie on a handful of occasions and met Lilibet only once when the family were here for the Platinum Jubilee in 2022. Relations have remained strained between the King and his estranged son since they left the royal family back in 2020. What is without question is that the royal family do not like the noise that surrounds Harry and Meghan. Family meetings, olive branches, reconciliation, all these things are best done behind closed doors. And yet Harry and Meghan seem to bring a circus with them wherever they go. After a bruising week, Harry will be hoping that he can secure that meeting with the King, who might be able to even talk some sense into him. Perhaps the King will be the one to tell him to draw a line under his constant battles against the British establishment and the royal family. There's been so many U-turns, backtracks and flip-flopping from Harry's side, it's hard to know where he stands on the matter now.
Welcome back, everyone. There is something about this latest royal story that immediately caught my attention, not because of what was confirmed, but because of how quickly the narrative was written for us. Once again, Prince Harry has found himself at the centre of headlines, claiming he has suffered another humiliating defeat, another rejection, another setback. But if you actually slow down and examine what's being presented, a very different picture begins to emerge. Today, we're going to unpack the reports suggesting King Charles could meet Prince Harry and possibly Archie and Lilibet during Harry's UK visit. More importantly, we're going to look beyond the sensational headlines and ask whether the media is reporting facts or simply creating another chapter in the never-ending royal drama. If you enjoy thoughtful royal analysis that goes beyond the clickbait, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you'd like to support our work, you can do so through the Super Thanks button below. Your support genuinely helps this channel continue bringing balanced discussions. Now, let's get into it. The first thing that stood out to me is how the entire story is framed around Prince Harry supposedly having a bruising week. That's the phrase that immediately jumps off the page. The audience is encouraged to believe that Harry is arriving in Britain as a defeated man. But let's ask ourselves a simple question. Is that actually what happened? Or is that simply the narrative someone wants readers to accept? Yes, there have been reports surrounding Harry's ongoing security concerns, discussions about accommodation, and his legal disputes with sections of the British press. Those are genuine developments. However, turning every one of those developments into a personal humiliation is a choice made by commentators, not an unavoidable conclusion. One thing I've noticed over the past several years is that whenever Harry visits the United Kingdom, his actual reason for being there somehow disappears from the headlines. Instead of focusing on the Invictus Games, instead of discussing the veterans, instead of highlighting the charitable work, the conversation immediately shifts to family drama. Who refused to meet whom? Who rejected whom? Who offered an olive branch? Who slammed the door? It's almost as if Harry's charity work becomes secondary because conflict attracts far more attention than compassion ever will. And that's something I think viewers should recognise. Now, let's talk about the reports that King Charles has instructed aides to look for time in his schedule to potentially meet Harry and possibly see Archie and Lilibet. According to the reporting, the king still wishes to have a relationship with his grandchildren despite the years of tension within the family. If that report is accurate, then I think it's actually the most positive part of the entire story. Because despite everything that has happened, despite interviews, despite memoirs, despite lawsuits, despite years of public disagreement, the door may not be completely closed. Families are complicated. Royal families are even more complicated. Relationships break down. Feelings get hurt. Trust gets damaged. But none of those things automatically mean reconciliation becomes impossible. Unfortunately, many commentators seem almost disappointed whenever there's even a hint of reconciliation. Notice how quickly the conversation moves away from hope and straight back toward criticism. Instead of asking what a meeting could mean for a father and son, we're immediately told that the king should talk some sense into Harry and persuade him to abandon his legal battles. That raises an interesting question. Why is Harry's decision to pursue legal action always portrayed as irrational? Whether people agree with him or not, Harry has repeatedly explained that his lawsuits are connected to privacy, accountability, and what he believes to be unlawful behaviour by parts of the British media. People can debate whether his legal strategy is effective. People can disagree with his approach. But dismissing his concerns altogether ignores years of public evidence about phone hacking, unlawful information gathering, and intrusive media practices that have already been exposed through previous investigations and court proceedings. So I don't think it's fair to reduce everything to the idea that Harry simply needs someone to tell him to stop. There's another point that deserves closer examination. The accommodation story. Reports suggest Harry was unable to stay at Buckingham Palace because of logistical issues, staffing arrangements, and timing surrounding his response. If those reports are accurate, then that's one explanation. But somehow that administrative issue immediately became another headline, claiming Harry had been rejected by his own family. Those aren't necessarily the same thing. A scheduling issue doesn't automatically prove emotional rejection. Palace operations involve security planning, staffing, and protocol. Those practical realities often get lost once the headlines start chasing maximum drama. Then there's the issue that continues to dominate almost every Harry visit to Britain: security. This is probably one of the most misunderstood parts of the entire discussion. Some critics frame Harry's concerns as simply wanting taxpayer-funded protection. But Harry's own position has consistently been that the threats facing him and his family changed dramatically after stepping back from royal duties, and that those risks should be properly assessed. Whether one agrees with his legal arguments or not, reducing such a complex issue to "he just wants free security" oversimplifies an issue involving safety, risk assessments, and official decision-making. That deserves a more nuanced conversation than many headlines allow. Something else I find fascinating is how anonymous royal sources continue to dominate these stories. Think about it. We're told what unnamed insiders supposedly think. We're told what unnamed palace figures supposedly feel. We're told what unnamed friends allegedly heard. But anonymous sourcing should always be treated carefully. Anonymous sources can sometimes provide valuable information. They can also reflect partial perspectives, misunderstandings, or strategic messaging. That's why it's important not to mistake every anonymous briefing for established fact. Now, let's imagine something for a moment. Suppose Harry does meet King Charles privately. Suppose they spend an hour talking. Suppose Archie and Lilibet get to spend time with their grandfather. Would we even hear about the substance of that meeting? Probably not. And perhaps that's exactly how it should be. Some of the most important family conversations should remain private. Ironically, that's one area where I actually agree with many royal commentators. Real reconciliation isn't built through newspaper headlines. It happens behind closed doors, away from cameras, away from speculation, away from commentators trying to score points for one side or the other. Perhaps that's exactly what this family needs. Less public commentary, more private conversation. Because if every attempt at rebuilding trust immediately becomes tomorrow's front-page headline, then genuine healing becomes incredibly difficult. There's another pattern worth mentioning. Prince Harry often seems to be judged by a different standard than almost anyone else in the royal family. When he stays silent, commentators speculate. When he speaks, he's accused of complaining. When he files lawsuits, he's called obsessive. When he doesn't respond, people assume guilt. It becomes almost impossible for him to satisfy every expectation because the narrative shifts depending on the headline of the day. That's why I always encourage viewers to separate opinion from evidence. Look at what's confirmed. Look at what's speculative. Look at who benefits from a particular narrative. Those questions matter. At the end of the day, I don't think this story is really about whether Harry won or lost another public relations battle. I think it's about whether a father and son still have enough common ground to keep talking. Because despite everything we've witnessed over the past 6 years, one thing remains true. King Charles is still Harry's father. Harry is still Charles's son. Archie and Lilibet are still the king's grandchildren. Those family ties don't disappear because newspapers declare another royal crisis. If a meeting happens, I sincerely hope it's productive. Not because it will suddenly solve every disagreement. Not because it will erase years of hurt. But because every meaningful reconciliation starts with a conversation. Whether that conversation lasts 30 minutes or 3 hours doesn't matter nearly as much as the willingness to have it. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think King Charles and Prince Harry are slowly moving toward rebuilding their relationship? Or do you believe the media continues to amplify every disagreement far beyond reality? Share your respectful thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest royal analysis. Thank you so much for watching, for supporting the channel, and I'll see you in the next discussion.